Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone in between, from the tall green trees here in Seattle and the sparkling vampires to the gun-wielding, tree-hugging bears all the way in Tampa, Florida, this is the Everything and Nothing Show. I'm just one of your hosts with the mostest, the Heartbreak Kid, Clayton Kisco, and I'm accompanied, of course, by the rest of the Maelstrom gamers, the underdogs in gaming. With us on this podcast today, we have the bad... Wait, no, we don't.
No.
We have the A-Train, Mr.
Shit.
No, we don't have him either. We got the Heartthrob. No, we don't have the Heartthrob either. Huh, that's a little weird. Well, we certainly have the artist formerly known as the Enigma, the Wild Card, Ian Kane.
What is going on, people?
Two-man show today.
That's right.
It's all good. We're picking topics that will hopefully just benefit from having two people as opposed to a bunch of five people with dumb opinions trying to get a word in edgewise. A pretty slim line of hosts, but no worries. People are busy, and they'll be back next week.
Clay,
what's up?
Clay,
What's up?
I wanted to tell you this. What's really good about this podcast, just you and I being here, is that we can actually talk shit about them and they can't respond.
Oh yeah, like Rocco's like Rocco's man bun and Alan's like weird Twitch thing he does.
And his tallness.
Yeah, his tallness and his like perfect hair that he tries to rub in our faces all the time. And then Steve-O's like affinity with the cop show, and we have to listen to that in the background every time we play League. It's ridiculous.
And his cut-off shirts.
Yeah, and his cut-off shirts. It's crazy. He's always flexing those muscles. It's weird. I don't like it.
I'm very jealous.
Very jealous.
Of all of them.
Yeah, exactly. So if you guys are just joining us, or if you've forgotten, I will remind you of the format of the show. The Everything Nothing Show is a formation of topics brought to you by the Maelstrom Gamers, where we hop on a Skype each and every week, have 5 topics. We come with, for our discussion, but more importantly, for your entertainment. In this week, I'm going to have 3 topics. Well, actually, I'm going to have 2 topics. Ian, you're going to have 2 topics. And then we're going to do a little bit of a pilot to a PTI-inspired show that we potentially could do in the future. We've done it in the past in the Do the News, but we're going to kind of crank it up a little bit in its speed and its formality. So we each bring 5 topics, and those 5 topics are its own separate episode on YouTube, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Maelstrom Gamers channel. Topic is brought to you on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way to Friday with each topic, and on Saturday, all the topics are rolled up into one big episode. All of that is for free, but if you'd like to get it early and maybe some other goodies for as little as like $1, which is like a fifth of the cost of a coffee that you get, maybe the second one on a weekend or third one, maybe you can cut the third one out and then
maybe
give us one of those dollars. You can give it to us on patreon.com/MaelstromGamers, and with it you'll get goodies and rewards and stuff like that. And look, if you don't have money, that's cool too. There's free ways that we like to remind people that you can support us, which are equally as important. It's commenting, liking, subscribing, sharing on our YouTube page, on our Facebook page, at our Twitter handle, at Maelstrom Gamers, and our Instagram handle. All that stuff is super, super helpful. And at the end of the day, we kind of just want to hear from you. We talk a lot about these topics. We're not experts by any means, and we want to know what your opinion is, because we just like talking about the things that we talk about. So it's entertaining for us when we hear your thoughts. Let's see. And then if you haven't had enough of that, you guys can watch us on our YouTube streaming channel. Same channel, Maelstrom Gamers channel, where we're streaming League of Legends, Smite, Uncharted 4, The Division. What else we got, Ian?
I got a few videos of Dark Souls. Little bit of course, you said League. So there's a lot of games that we have. I've been doing a little bit of Paragon. I don't know if you've heard of that. That's going to be part of our topic later on.
It is.
And there's much more to come. I'm actually getting back into Elder Scrolls Online, so maybe you might see a little bit of tidbit of that.
Ooh, tidbits. I love tidbits. Okay, so, check us out. Look, we're not the best, so you're not going to see anything crazy, but we're certainly not the worst, so you won't get frustrated, but we are entertaining. Yeah, okay, closer.
Boom.
Yeah, look at that. So yeah, watch us. Come hang out. You can stalk us. It's totally cool. Or come play with us. just find us on that YouTube streaming, and then just hop on and play with us. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. We covered the ways that you could support us for free. We covered the ways that you could support us with money, which is really, really appreciated, and the format of the show. So let's get started. Let's get our first topic in. We had just wrapped up an E3 themed episode, but what I realized, Ian, from that is that we had way too much information to try to cover within the time slot that we were given and the amount of topics we were given. So I felt like we were just steamrolling down all of the different kind of topics and little bits of information, and a lot of it got like thrown to the wayside, or we couldn't talk about it. So I wanted to pick one game, and which we've decided on before this podcast, and just kind of dig into it a little bit more and talk about it a little bit more, and kind of just breathe a little bit, and so that we can kind of like really step back, fresh eyes, and look at it. And that game is for the PS4. It's a little game. I don't know if you heard about it. It's called God of War.
Just tiny.
Yeah, actually. So the new God of War is coming out for the PS4. It's just God of War, right? It's like that reboot style where there's no numbers, there's no like retribution, like weird subtitles. It's just reboot God of War.
Well, I think that there might be something after it. I'm not exactly sure on the title, but that's all you really need. I mean, honestly, it's all very close to the same game. I've played them all. They're awesome. I think the graphics are great. I like that whole Greek mythology behind it, and I think that they've nailed it on the head every time. And what they introduced, I believe, last time was a multiplayer. I don't know if you got to play the game at all, but it's really cool. It's a basic, multiplayer game where you're just literally smashing each person. It's an arena style. You have a map, and you go and just fight, and you have certain abilities. It doesn't get too complex, but they have a little bit like of different abilities that you can customize your character. So.
That's great, Ian, and I'm glad that you brought that to the table, but I'm going to quickly shove it aside because in an article by IGN, director Cory Barlog confirmed that the new game has dropped the multiplayer mode.
What?
That was added. And, yeah.
Man.
They've dropped that, and they said that that this actually won't be Kratos' last game either. I know there was a lot of speculations and rumors that he's going to die or he's going to be gone or you're going to play the kid.
Yeah.
He's confirmed that this is not his last game, which, it could still be construed where, maybe he is dead and he just comes back in like in another form in the game and you're not playing him, but I think it's still worth mentioning. He also confirmed that Kratos' son would not be a hindrance in combat, meaning the player won't have to break off fights to look after him. And I have my thoughts about this. Alan previously had mentioned that there was a lot of rumors and thoughts that you eventually play him because of the XP going into the kid. But my thought, actually, like watching more deep dive gameplay, rewind trailers of God of War, which is confirmed, it's just God of War. There's no subtitle. Was that basically he is an extension. Think of him as like a weapon. With its own progression track. So he's an extension of your combat. You have him in there like doing certain things just on its wayside. And it's not like you have to protect him or whatever. He's like a pet pretty much. And this child will get XP so that you can help improve him, train him. Maybe his arrows get stronger or they do different things. And so now in combat, you're doing a lot of the stuff, but you have this like secondary like helping hand that gets to like improve. And then narratively, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because he's there to train his son. So potentially in the future, when you maybe end up playing this kid, you have a long-standing relationship and connection with him. That's my thought. I think he's just going to be an extension of the combat. And that comment by Barlog about how he won't be a hindrance in combat suggests that, it's not this hand-holdy, protect him so he doesn't die, and if he dies, you lose the game. I don't even know if he's going to have a health bar. You know what I mean? Like, I think he might just be a thing in the environment you're going to be able to help, like, use to help kill bad guys and stuff.
I really hope that's the case because, I mean, there was one game, I can't remember what it was, but there was a part in it where you had your child, and literally the pathing of that child would always like kind of go off to the side and everything, and you're trying to fight, and then you have to go back and try to save it. It could really destroy the game, I think. So to have him like a pet style with no health, just kind of giving you a helping hand. Maybe you can make him go and do something interacting with the environment to kill a bunch of things. That would be really cool.
Yeah,
So,
I get the sense that like the between the big things of combat, I don't know. Okay, so one thing we haven't talked about either is and this is going to lead into the comment I was about to say, but I feel like it requires a little bit of a back kind of thought. And what we didn't talk about was basically the new camera.
right.
You are so much close. Think of it like it reminds me of Tomb Raider.
Right, third person.
Yeah,
You're right over the shoulder.
or Gears of War. Yeah, it's like right
Yeah.
over the shoulder. It's so much closer, which is different. Has a lot of implications. Now all of a sudden, having like a ton of enemies on the screen at once gets a little bit hard to deal with. It's not going to be, I don't believe, as hack and slashy. I think it's going to be a little bit more methodical, slowed down, like you would of a Tomb Raider. And so because of that kind of style of combat and the pacing with it, I think that. I don't know. I think that's going to be really refreshing, and I think that's going to be new, and I think that's what the series needed. But it also doesn't necessarily. Well, I was going to say that it's just going to be different, right? Like I think the puzzling mechanic, like so, the God of War really breaks down to an interesting loop, where it's like four major pillars, right?
Right.
It's the exploration of the environment and using like. And having to solve puzzles within the environment. Then
Puzzles and platforms, I would imagine, pretty much what it is.
hack and slash combat, boss battles, and then upgrading your guy, right? And then it's just looped, and it could go in different order. It doesn't have to follow that order. But the puzzles that they're going to present are going to be. They're going to be different than I think what we're traditionally used to. Almost traditionally, I think it's a little bit more of an arcadey puzzle. Like you have this like water that's running and this dead body. You got to shove it in there so like the boxes would stop, and then you can climb that out. And like, ironically,
they'll stack up and you can get up on top of the ledge and
exactly, yeah. And now it's following, ironically, the Tomb Raider style. I think where you're going to see these like bears or like these wildlife creatures that you're going to shoot and use to like collect stuff to potentially like not only get experience but use materials to upgrade weapons, right? And also could play a part of the environmental puzzles, the traversal puzzles that I think are indicative of the new Tomb Raider game, whereas the old God of War was more indicative of the old Tomb Raider style game. It's actually kind of interesting that they've followed the breadcrumbs that Tomb Raider's laid out, because Tomb Raider reinvented itself very successfully, and I think God of War is trying to do the exact same thing, and they might be looking heavily for inspiration in that series.
Now, I have a question for you, Clay. How cool would it be if you could kill like a bear, like you said, or something of that sort, and make a bow out of it?
That's what I mean. Maybe not like make a bow right away, but you can certainly get like food and like bone, and use those materials to eventually craft with a combination of wood and like. Yeah, I actually think that is precisely what they're gonna go towards, just like Tomb Raider.
But it would be so cool to have like the spine of a bear as your staff, like that would be pretty cool. And have its head on top.
And then the other thing is that these animals are a little bit more mythic, right? Like Tomb Raider is set very grittily in the real world, whereas God of War is set grittily in god mythology. In this case, Norse mythology. So there's a lot of snow. It's very Norwegian, and then that elk that they kill. It's got like these glowing ice-tipped antlers, right? So yeah, I definitely think they can like siphon magic from it, potentially use the antlers, like you said, for like tools, like bows. It makes a lot of sense. There's runes on it, you know what I mean? Like there's gonna be some really fun things. You can do so much with magic when it comes to gameplay and story. You can just get away with a ton. So I'm really excited about that. I also man, they did a really good job of scale. That I think that camera also lends itself well to by having that camera get so close to the over the shoulder of the of Kratos. you get to see firsthand what scaling is in terms of like how big you are relative to the environment, how big your sun is relative to the environment, how big enemies are relative to the environment, and then how big like the creatures and other more like mythic creature or enemies are in relative to the environment. So you have your child, you have those trolls that you're killing or golems, whatever, and then you have like the bigger troll who is huge, and you have that elk that comes out, and instead of just like looking like, okay, that's just a
that's
deer,
kind of a big enemy. Yeah.
he looks like they did such a good job of like that thing feeling majestic and rare because of how big it was. Even Kratos was smaller than him, and he's a big guy. Like that felt really, really like realistic and cool and refreshing. And you can only really do that, I think, with that camera that you have, because his fight with the troll really felt big. And they kind of did it in the old God of War where it would zoom in during like the QTE, which is another thing I want to get to. But now even the moment-to-moment gameplay is feeling really epic that you couldn't have when it was isometric camera top down, because when you use that camera they all feel somewhat the same size. Maybe they're thicker, which you can get with the isometric camera, but the height you can't necessarily get, and this camera lends itself to height variation really well amongst enemies and creatures.
I agree with you there, because I mean it's really cool to get that aspect of it. Like, holy shit, that is a big enemy. Like, how am I gonna fight that thing? But when you do top down, you're like, okay, my guy's a little bit smaller, but I'm just gonna move here and here, and it's just like kind of a I guess like a chessboard almost. You're just looking right over it. But exactly. To get that aspect of over the shoulder, like, oh, this thing's gonna mess me up.
I'm only as tall as his knee. And then that, like we talked about, like it's doing a ton for combat, because now you don't hack and slash. Now you're like, oh shit, okay, do I hit the ankle? Do I aim? Do I jump and roll and then hit for? It's like it's almost Dark Souls style.
That's what I was gonna say, and that's what's great about Dark Souls is like you fight these major epic bosses that are enormous. So I feel like they're taking that into consideration now and kind of spinning off their own little thing on their God of War style off of that. So it's great. I think it's going to really improve the gameplay. I think it's going to help the series, because they're going to come out with more God of Wars. So and hopefully they keep with that path. So and I always enjoyed, you're sitting there fighting like these little horde of enemies, and then out of nowhere, boom, you're fighting this giant, and you have to sit there and climb him and slash his throat or something. It'd be just really cool.
Yeah, man. It's awesome. I'm really excited for it. The other thing that I was bringing up is QTE seems to be still there, but severely like brought down, right? Like it doesn't feel as in your face. Like the fight with the troll, he just did his special and nailed it, and then we got to just sit back and kind of watch a really cool way that Kratos just dismantles this creature. The QTE, like, I'm not a fan of. I used to be. I have since been convinced and like played enough of it that it doesn't really feel gamey at all. It feels like a chore. And there's really there's ways to do it that it feels like a chore and kind of like a cheap way, a lazy way to get some extra gameplay during a cinematic. And then there's ways to do it completely wrong, like Metal Gear Solid 2, where you are just slamming on a controller, and it's a physical frustration and challenge as opposed to a mental one where it's patterns and learning the gameplay mechanics, and it just doesn't work, right? So going away from QTEs, which for those of you guys don't know are quick time events, which is to say, like a character goes to attack and all of a sudden it's like you have to press the X button and you have like a second to do it, and if you don't do it you die, and then after you do the X button it's like, okay, now do the square. It's like Simon. No, it's not like Simon. It's like, I don't know.
And then you have to time it because there's a little timer and you have to hit it at exact time, or you have to tap something while something's about to impale you.
It's just, I think, man, I just think there's better ways. There's got to be better ways to do it. More interesting, more fun ways.
It's tough. I mean, because honestly, QTEs I wasn't the biggest fan of, but then again, it is kind of cool sometimes. And as long as it's not overpowered, where you have to sit there and you have to go through this huge sequence and it's like the whole fight. It's like, no, I would actually like to fight it and then maybe have like a finisher be like that.
Yeah.
So I know there's some, I know that with, at least in the past God of Wars, that's how a lot of the endings were in a boss fight was a QTE, honestly. So hopefully they master that a little bit better.
Yeah. I think just using your special and like seeing something fun, I think is way better.
Right.
There's cool ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could talk about. I mean, we're in Norse mythology. There's so much to think about. I mean, there's Thor, there's Odin, there's Loki, there's Ragnarok. The thought that like it's when Loki and Fenrir, which I think someone mentioned in the comments when I was watching a Rewind trailer, that they saw a giant wolf in the background.
Yep.
And that could be Fenrir, who is a wolf son of Loki, who is the one that kills Odin, I believe.
I think that's how it all works.
And then there's like a dragon in the background, which could be, part of Ragnar. I think part of Ragnar. Or like, there's like, they're not like these characters. Like you see, like a snakish like character. Like they're not just like random. Oh man, holy crap!
Like a random character, just like almost it's telling the story of mythology, pretty much.
Yeah. Oh man, there's some good stuff too. Because I think Fenrir. I did this on some stuff on Deer Hunter. I think Fenrir. He also has two wolf sons, and I believe they eat the moon and the sun.
Okay.
And those were like creatures as well. Oh man. And then he's the one that like kills Odin, I believe, or Thor. He kills Thor or Odin. There's some like just really interesting mythology, and it's like refreshing because it's just a different take. Like I don't know, some of that Greek stuff is it's definitely overplayed at this point. So going towards that direction, Viking, Norse is really fun to dive into and learn about.
Yeah, it sure is. I'm excited for the game. I'm very excited for the game. So,
do you think where would you think they would go if it's not Norse? Where do you think they would head to? Because I think we mentioned it could have been Egypt, which would have been fun and felt really different.
Honestly, that wouldn't be a bad idea for someone to kind of spin off a God of War type of game to be more Egyptian. I mean, there's so much history in that, and there's just a lot of mystery too, if you really think about it, like hieroglyphics and everything like that. It's an untapped language half the time, and there's I think that would be pretty cool to think of how they could go about that. Of course, you have mummies and all that kind of stuff, but literally, what's that?
I just got really excited to fight mummies and stuff.
Oh yeah, and to you got pyramids, you got giant scale things that we sit there and wonder how they were even created back then. Without technology and everything. I think that would be a really cool concept to go around. Maybe think of a protagonist that they can center everything. We use, of course, in God of War, the God of War, Kratos. So who would be a pretty cool guy to kind of go around in like an Egyptian?
I think it has to be Kratos. I think it's got to be that guy.
Really?
Yeah.
You can't think of like an Egyptian hero or someone of that sort?
No, well, Kratos is not a Greek hero. He's completely made up.
Right. No, I'm just saying, but like if you think of more of an Egyptian hero that you could think of.
I think it's fun because Kratos is made up. I think it's fun to imagine that you're Kratos because you have no affiliation or association with this old religion, of gods that you're just fucking. You were learning and witnessing everything for the first time, just like your character that you're playing. And then you're also probably pretty angry because you relate to his emotions against the Egyptian gods. You're like, yeah, let's take him out. I don't know. Like, for instance, like if this was flipped and Egyptians were the first type of stuff that we had experienced and we were talking Greek mythology, I wouldn't say, like, I want to play Hercules. Because, like, at the end of the day, I think it was a better choice to pick a made-up character like Kratos, who you have freedom to explore and, like, do different things and mess with him a little bit. Like, he's got those, like, really cool swords that fly out, which is another thing he's missing. He has an axe in this new one. And, like, he's just ill-tempered. Like, Hercules is too goody two-shoes. He's using his fists. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little vanilla, and Hercules is a boring character. You probably can't do a lot with him. So, yeah, having someone made up completely like Kratos. I mean, I guess they can make a new person up for Egypt, but, like, I don't know. My brain goes to the business side, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to necessarily, like, I would want to flush out Norse, and then after Norse, go on to the Egyptian side of it and, like, still have Kratos. Because, like, if you try to do it in parallel, you might be blowing your load, so to speak, a little bit too early.
Oh, of course.
So I personally wouldn't want a new guy. I would want someone like Kratos or his son to be in those games.
Okay.
The only other religion that I can think of is the Chinese religion.
Well, that was my next thought. Is like, okay, then do you go down that path? Because I mean, that has so much behind it. But if you think about it, really, there's similar games. I'm not going to say it's very similar to God of War, but you have like Dynasty Warriors and everything, which is like a hack and slash. Great games. I like them. They get a little redundant after a while, but you know, do you start competing with them? I mean,
they're different games. And like you said, they're redundant, and you play Dynasty Warriors 10, you've basically played Dynasty Warriors 1. You know what I mean? Like, but if you go in for God of War now, you have a completely different view and perspective on that mythology. And you've played a lot of Smite, so I'm curious. Yeah. I know they have the Chinese mythology. They have Norse mythology, Greek mythology, and
you have Egyptian
mythology. What else did
Hindu?
Oh, that would feel weird. Going into Hindu and like killing people.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. That would definitely be something.
What else? We touched upon Norse, Greek.
I think those are the major players.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's subs to a lot of those, but honestly, just stick with the main stuff to really hit the market. You know,
once you've hit the major four, Greek, Norse, Chinese, Egyptian, I would expect a return to Greek. I would then be at that point. You're talking what, 2 years per game, 3 per mythology. That's what is that? 3,
5. I'm guessing
3 times 15 years would have gone by from this point on before we see another Greek. So that's also another like 3 or 4 years between the last God of War 3. So we're talking almost 20 years since we've been back to the Greek mythology. Like, that's plenty. And then that's a great cycle, especially as a consumer too, because you go this amount of years without seeing something. So when they come back to it, it feels really refreshing too.
You're like, oh hell yeah, I remember playing this when I was a kid.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's all new technology and you're doing this and that. And
it's VR.
It gets crazy. I was just about to say, virtual reality. So
cool. So let's go on.